Hello friends, Philip Magnus here. I covered the Alters when its demo first came out. If you're looking for a first impressions style discussion without covering more spoiler-filled moments, you're welcome to check that out. It's good, promise. Some games, it's the journey rather than the destination. There's good reason for that. An ending is hard to pull off. A satisfying one, more so. Everything that comes before it, a long, winding journey throughout a desolate world, say, filled with challenges and colourful characters, is plenty to write home about in comparison. When these characters are all alternate versions of one likeable protagonist, the journey is certainly a memorable one. The narrative of the Alters is one of survival, and the gameplay loop follows suit. The first is engaging almost all the way through. The second, I fear, becomes something of a drudgery by the opening of Act 3, 20-some hours in. If you need the spark notes of the game's plot, here goes. Jan Dolsky lives on the tail end of environmental catastrophe in the near future. After a lifetime of disappointments, Jan signs up for a space mission aimed at the discovery of an unobtainium-style substance called rubidium, which has the capacity to fix the food shortage crisis back home because it's a magical time-accelerating wonder of an element. Unfortunately for Jan, everyone signed up for the mission dies on the way down this nightmare planet, and Jan has to deal with survival and the gathering of rubidium all on his lonesome. An impossible task for any one man, if not for the quantum computer on board his mobile base. It's thanks to this quantum computer that Jan can create alters of himself, clones whose life paths differ at one of several key decision points. The Alters has more content, more alters to grow than a single playthrough could ever cover. Likewise too with research. There are only so many planetary samples in a playthrough. Go a different route with choice of the first as well as with what accent you put on research and the base management, and you'll find that the resource gathering portion of the game looks significantly different, with each alter tied to a different resource or management aspect via their specialization. There's definitely replayability to the gameplay loop too. For example, the botanist is supreme where growing food is concerned. The miner is great at mining for metals. The refiner works in the refinery so much more quickly than anyone else, etc. These are serious considerations, especially early on in the game, when the mission is so resource-starved that picking between building a dormitory and a research lab feels like a consequential decision, even if it's not. The narrative doesn't demand specific choices outside of two, the technician and the scientist. My third choice was the miner, whose personal journey was so satisfying as to be one of the highlights of the game for me.
Well, if you need someone to wait it out with, remember we're here for you. That's not necessary, but thanks.
My biggest pet peeve with the narrative is the culmination of the game's second act locks you out of a number of your alters depending on a certain choice, a choice that is deeply frustrating for several reasons. Jan is asked to create a clone empty of any Yang content in order to produce a cure for some detrimental brain bug that's going to kill all the alters if not addressed in short order. This done, two solutions make themselves known. One, to use the tabula rasa alter's brain to produce a cure, and the other to talk with Jan's ex-wife in search of a different cure entirely. Both ideas have proponents and opponents, and depending on which one you choose, you'll find that those opposing the plan will have their affection rating towards your Jan locked down to the lowest level. By the end of the act, everyone who disagrees with your choice will leave the ship for greener moral pastures. The issue is, in my personal journey up to that point, I'd already grown a hand for the miner. The logical question to ask is, why wasn't I capable of growing just a brain for the express purpose of healing my alters? Many of the alters' disagreements with my choice were based on the notion that the tabula rasa is a person. And by the way, it's a totally the right notion, as the game itself confirms if you go with the other option. But I thought the grisly choice that 2/3 of my crew disagreed with made for a more dramatic and interesting storyline. Why can't we just grow a brain is unfortunately not a question the game thought to ask. For a story so reliant on clever science fictional writing, that just doesn't sit well with me. Trust me, I hate to be the guy who points this out rather than to support the fiction, but choices like this one, with consequences as severe as these, really send me down this nitpicky cognitive dissonance route that I can't keep quiet about. I also didn't necessarily think that making that particular choice would cost me as much as it ended up costing, namely removing those 2/3 of my crew who disagreed. I expect that I might well return to the altars in years to come to make the right decision. There's enough to do differently there that I'll be happy to experience those choices anew once the memory of this playthrough begins to fade. The biggest issue I have, the one that's stopping me, beyond the slight annoyances with the narrative I've discussed so far, has to do with the gameplay loop. This is not too short a game, and a good chunk of it is filled with the minutiae of survival. Exploration does a lot of the heavy lifting to make the gameplay loop engaging. The game provides 3 large maps to explore across its 3 acts. Each of the maps has unique features, is gorgeous to traverse, and filled with a smattering of interesting physical phenomena that the player as Jan has to learn to traverse and deal with. Much of the exploration revolves around searching for mining locations for the various resources necessary to build up the mobile base. Having spent anywhere between 5 and 12 hours exploring each of these 3 maps, I couldn't imagine going back to the drudgery of building up my infrastructure anew. A further issue is compounded in the Act 1 and Act 3 maps. Being smaller than Act 2's map, neither of those offer much in the way of choice. There's only one spot to mine each type of resource from across those 2 maps. Really quite frustrating considering the fact that the Act 2 map invites you to make active choices about how to position your pylon and outpost infrastructure because you have more than one resource node for most, if not all, resources. In truth, by the opening of Act 3, I was already feeling fatigued. The exploration became a chore, and so did the survival gameplay. I had already mastered the system and figured out that there really isn't some secret depth to it. I was there only to resolve the storyline. And with only 2 crew members, the days spent working towards rescue felt decidedly blander than I'd have liked. And sure, there is a fun little set piece at the end of the game, but even that really isn't anything to write home about. Not that it wasn't an engaging story in its own way. There is a sense of melancholy and loss when a ship crewed by 7 people is suddenly down to 3, just when you get used to the hubbub of so many different versions of yourself, the quiet that follows. That break in trust by the end of Act 2, it hits hard. It was a satisfying enough narrative development, the consequences of my own actions, even if I disagree with the way the conflict in Act 2 itself was handled. But the game at that point wasn't too satisfying to play. I was well and truly ready to see how it resolves. Unfortunately, the resolution didn't entirely satisfy me either. It's not that I thought it was actively bad, more that when I went through the last choice, and especially the epilogue, I just shrugged and moved on with my life. Not the ideal reaction, I suspect. I don't regret spending my time with the alters. Its core theme of a builder working to survive alongside his quantum doubles while trying to find a way to best help Earth in a capitalist hellscape, no less. All of this is explored so gorgeously through the script. The performance of actor Alex Jordan is such a highlight, especially. He deserves, at the very least, a nod for his acting prowess come awards season. Anyone who enjoys the in-depth exploration of science fictional ideas will well and truly appreciate the likeness and differences between each version of Jan Dolsky. They range from the most subtle things to such significant differences as to make a few of the alters seem like entirely different people, at least at first. The reasons I would consider playing through the alters again are many. Of course, now that I've got experience of the research and exploration aspects of the game, I can optimize my style of play and do much better with exploration from early on. That would satisfy the part of my brain that likes everything neat and tidy. I'd probably be able to cut through the length of a second playthrough considerably. And of course, I badly wish to meet all those alters I didn't get to during that first playthrough. Because I thought I would have more space to create alters midpoint through Act 2, I knowingly used my last slot to summon the Refiner, rather than the Psychologist, the latter of whom I was far more interested in. C'est la vie. Live and learn. I recommend the alters, again, to those of you who have an interest in science fictional ideas done, for the most part, well. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. Let me know in the comments below. Have you played the alters? Have you actively enjoyed it? Did you find any part of it wanting? I would love to hear from you. I'm Philip Magnus. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Growing up apart, we shared surprisingly common ground, feeling nothing more than regret. Till the coin got flipped around, things never said in quantum state now won't remain unspoken. The clock is unwound, the choice is unsound, could now reopen. What if I gotta spend a day with you again? Of all the things that I regret, it's losing you that truly hurts. If I could take another turn, my life would never be the same. If I could get another chance today. Looking at the path ahead, I simply don't know where it ends. But I'm no longer left all by myself. I know I'm in it with my friends. Things that we lost, the personal cost, are they really gone forever? We're not gonna fail, we need to prevail and sail together. And though it seems now anything could be undone, would you be really missing things if they were never truly gone?